Howdy, howdy, lads, MBs, and lasses. If you live in the Harris Branch neighborhood in Austin, Texas, my name's Anthony, and I'm still your neighbor. I know it has been quite a while since our last update. This has been an excruciating experience for the board with a lot of stuff to cover tonight. Going to be a little bit of drama, some resignations, updates on the chaos that is happening on St. Merryn. I know most of you will be here to hear about that green wall project. Those who have subscribed, however, and have been following the channel probably already know about it, but go ahead and hit subscribe so that way you get a notification when the next update on the HOA meeting will be. Sadly, this meeting was not held on the third Thursday of every month. The last couple have not been, if they even have occurred. I think the last official one we had was in December. That is why we're still waiting around on trying to get some stuff updated. There's a lot moving there, so I wanted to wait until we had all that information ready to go so I could put it in this video. I suspect we're going to go a little bit over what I try to keep this in, 20 minutes. So if you get bombarded with ads, I'm sorry. It's not monetized. This is just something I like to do so that way everyone in the community has an easy way to get an update on the meeting minutes and issues that are occurring in the neighborhood, as well as a way to communicate with either myself while I'm on the board, or I can always go to the meeting and voice concerns that come through this channel as well. One of the biggest things for this meeting was we finally have a replacement for Valerie Dejo. She is the secretary, albeit she only did meeting minutes for December, which haven't been posted, probably why most of you are unaware of what's going on after that latest meeting, before she quit. It's a win for the community that she resigned. All I can say is that individual is unhinged in the way they conduct themselves, and so thankfully they decided to step down. Of course, that left a lot of projects up in the chaos, one of those being the St. Merryn green wall, as well as the gym. That was one that person oversaw. This is one that I attempted to oversee. However, as we get into the homeowners forum here in a little bit, I'll go over all the details of all the sandbagging, misdirection, and misinformation that has been provided to some of the members of the community in regards to our president and their awareness and understanding of the St. Merryn Green Wall project. So as you can see here, we have the agenda. It was called to order. All of the members were present. Myself, the treasurer, the vice president, and our lifestyle and events officer, Jose. The approval for the December 2023 meeting minutes did not happen. There is still some edits that the president is attempting to make, despite the recording that I will share later in this video of the approval of that project and her vote of confidence in support of it, with an even more damning repeating of the total cost. The board was aware of this cost. They all had the information in regards to what type of plants, who was going to do. We had a timeline. However, that got blown up due to poor leadership under our current president, Vanessa Silas, and that has continued to this day. One of the biggest problems, and many of you might not know this, but we have almost lost our property manager 3 times. Luckily, the 3 of us on the board still were able to reason and support him in his endeavors with the headaches that he's experiencing under our current president. Additionally, there was a moment where the president was running cover / protecting the previous board member who has stepped down, causing an immense amount of unnecessary drama with our vendors, with our community manager, with our community manager's manager, with even a receptionist at the community manager's office, all the way up to our previous attorney. And speaking with some of the members of the previous board, they did not even run because of the actions and behavior of the current president, Vanessa Silas, and the former board member, Valerie Dejo. I can't stress this enough. If you ever see these folks in another election, please, for the love of all that is holy, do not vote them into office. It has been an eye-opening experience for me coming from the previous board and seeing how that was run to seeing the chaos that has ensued on this board and nearly 3 of us quitting because of the leadership. For the homeowner forum, now you'll need to buckle up because this one went on for almost an hour and a half. There is a recurring theme here when it comes to the complaints about the Green Wall project, and many of them are valid, but once you understand the behind the scenes of what has occurred that has continued to delay, derail, and outright halt the project project multiple times, it'll be a little bit more clear on what is going on and why it is in such a disrepair in the plan that the rest of the board has in place to get this thing taken care of and get it back to where it needs to be. In the homeowner forum, we had almost 12 homeowners. This was mainly folks asking questions about the project on St. Merryn. However, I'll break out a few of the other issues that were brought up. There were some homeowners who asked about foundations regarding soil. They are new to the area and they're seeing cracks in their house. One of the biggest things you can do if you're new to the area, plant fibrous root systems around your house so that way it holds the soil. Shade will help prevent your foundation from drying out. And then in those super hot months when we have long drought, if you can, use your rain barrels, which you're allowed to have, to water your foundation. But if not, sparingly water your foundation with a soaker hose. Make sure at least you're 12 inches away from the foundation when you're soaking, and keep it consistent and equal. This will help get you through those couple months of severe heat, so that way you avoid having to do extensive foundation repairs when it comes to protecting your home. The reason these things happen is because the soil is clay, and the drier months it dries out, and underneath your foundation is where the water takes the longest to dry. But once it dries there, then that's when you start to see shifting. Unfortunately, developers don't really put a lot of effort into these houses. They throw them up as fast as possible, sell them as quick as possible, and then bounce on to their next project, where we are left to deal with the consequences of their building decisions. One issue with some of these neighborhoods that was built out here that was not part of the city of Austin, so they had near to no building codes or city codes that they had to follow when they were building some of these older neighborhoods. One of the questions asked from a community rep from Belhaven was in regards to the Belhaven Monument. I'm sure most of you have seen it. It's been in disrepair for quite a while. This is on Farm Haven in St. Merryn. There's a Belhaven Monument that somebody crashed into with their car. We're not entirely sure on the details of why that occurred or what happened. We are looking into possibly going after the person, because it seems like some of the neighbors have video with a license plate. So hopefully we can recoup some of the cost on that by going after that person's insurance. However, according to the community manager, the reason why it's taken so long is attempting to find someone who will do the repair to match it. Seems that with most things in Austin, when it comes to construction stuff, if it's too small, you're not going to get a lot of interest, because there's just so many large projects going on that are way more profitable for these builders that they'd rather go and do. Luckily, he mentioned at the meeting for this month that he found 2 people who put a bid on it to get that repaired and taken care of. There was actual praise for some of the work that has been done on Farm Haven. I know one of the things that comes up a lot in the community is that Farm Haven Road, with all the trucks and buses and food trucks that are parked out there. And I know it's a long-going thing with many neighbors having run point on that with our local PD. The biggest issue is some of those are registered out of state, so by the time it takes the police officer to get a hold of the owner of some of those semis and stuff like that, they'll move it. The ones that are here, they have been ticketed. Homeowners are noticing that the amount of vehicles parked there has been reduced. Alrighty, and the thing that you are all here waiting to find out about, if you haven't seen my post on Nextdoor, Anthony Main is myself. Feel free to add me as a friend. I normally do try and post these videos there. That is the platform that has the most homeowners on it and participate. If you're looking for other Facebook groups, dog park groups, anything like that, if you look below in the description of this video, there will be links to social medias, as well as the important links to Town Square and the non-homeowner facing website, where you can find all the bylaws and stuff like that. So I'm going to run through this really quick, because this is the important part of this project. This project was built out, put together, and ready to rock and roll. December is when this was brought to the board. I made a motion digitally. The treasurer seconded it. Then it was discussed in the meeting. I'm going to play that meeting now, so that way you can hear exactly what is discussed, and I'm going to put on the screen for you the email that was sent to the entire board with all of this information in it. Attached to that email is all the information that many of you have been asking about, i.e. what are the plants that are going to be, what sections are they doing, who's doing it, how long will it take. That was all provided to the president and the previous secretary. However, you will quickly find, sadly, that they are not telling the members of this community exactly what's going on. And so I wanted to just give you the paper trail. Many of you who have been following for a while know in every situation, I keep a paper trail. I come with receipts. Really quickly, I want to show you all of the emails over here of the board members who received this at December 13th at 10 a.m. before the meeting to review. And this is when I made the second and discussed the rebid from SunGrow. Now, fast forward, things are still getting spicy. We have a president protecting somebody who should not be a representative of any community, let alone ours. And the two involved there, Vanessa and Valerie, decide to change their tone and start proclaiming that they didn't vote to approve this. Again, I'm going to play this part of the video so you can hear both of them responding to this bid and voting yes.
Anthony, did you want to talk on what's going on in your world?
Yes, indeed. The only two things really on my plate was the Green Wall initiative, sent that out. I'll talk about that in a sec. The canopy trimming has been underway. I don't know if you guys have driven.
So good. Oh my gosh. What a difference.
Yeah, the trees have formed now.
Oh, they're so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I have a drive-through next week with the foreman from SunGrow to go through to make sure we got all the trees that needed to be trimmed. And then I checked most of the cuts. I've driven most of the areas so far, and everything that has been cut looks great. The green wall aspect, I'll kind of just reply back to Valerie, your email. Yeah. So as far as the vitality of the plants, that was one of the biggest things that I would do, was request that those folks who were going to bid on this provide me the palette of plants. I told them I wanted native species, drought tolerant, as well as freeze tolerant, because unfortunately just defeating the heat is not enough. You have to be prepared for below freezing temperatures every once in a while. And obviously SunGrow knocked that one out of the park. If you look at what they're going to be doing, they're talking, it's fully staged. One of the things that I appreciated about Will was that in situations where I was like, well, what about this? He's like, that's not a species that's going to make it there. And whereas the other one's like, yeah, we can do that. It's a much more robust plan. If you look what they're going to be taking out the health strip in a lot of these sections, and it'll be tiered. When you look at what Urban Dirt provided or Sunscape provided, it's just more of like a small patch that they're going to do on the side, versus where SunGrow is going to be doing pretty much from the concrete up to the fence with a break there for homeowners in their property. The other thing was the mulch that they've been collecting will be brought back out in trucks to be delivered. So like a lot of the areas underneath our large oaks, obviously with that kind of shade, you're not going to get a lot of stuff to grow under there. So really the best thing to do is to put mulch down for that tree. And then that way it doesn't look as, it prevents a lot of the erosion from water taking all that topsoil off, and it'll help cool the tree and keep it watered in the summertime. As far as the watering aspect, when we looked into running, irrigation, we're talking upwards of $50,000-$60,000 for a lot of that. So that's why we decided to go with the trucks. The trucks, you could run hundreds of trucks for that price. This is something, I don't know if many of you guys have been out of country, especially South America or Asia. They'll do a lot of waterings via a large water truck where they spray the water out onto as the topsoil. And that way you can just hit it as needed, as opposed to running, trenching things underneath the sidewalks and roads with irrigation plans. The one thing that was different with SunGrow's is the warranty aspect of it. With the other providers, they would not provide anything if it wasn't on a timer irrigation. Yeah. However, with SunGrow, they offered a 70% discount on if like something failed, then we could buy a replacement at 70% discount of cost. So that was like a whole thing that the other ones didn't provide. And then these other questions. And yeah, all of these plants are, 20, 30-year trees. They're more mid-story because most of the trees that we already have along the thoroughfare are large story trees, like the oaks and mainly just oaks. And so these trees would be closer to the mid-story, like 15 to 20 feet, versus the oaks that are 60 to 70 feet tall. So it'll be a nice tiered system of shade along those ways.
Okay.
Thank you, Anthony.
Is that it, Anthony? Anybody got questions? Any more questions? Because he was answering the questions that Valerie had in an email sent.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Of course.
All right.
Yep.
So there is a motion and a second that has been made on the Greenwald project contract SunGrow vendor, contract vendor, SunGrow. So now I would like to call for the vote. All those in favor to approve the SunGrow bid. Anthony, do you have the exact dollar amount? I have a note 58K, but I'm not sure if I was exact.
No. That's the tree trimming. So basically, this is literally for.
It's
like
a, you know,
$249.
what is the amount? So we have it in our thing.
171.
How much, Val?
Was it 171, something like that, Anthony?
That was urban.
That was urban.
That was
This
urban.
is SunGrow for all of them was $343,913.
So tell me again.
$343,913.
Okay.
And so that's the other thing too with this. I sent out the pictures with the different phases. And so, instead of doing it all at once, we can do it in those phases, see how it, goes. If we have any issues with it, then we can say, you know what, you guys
We
can't do any more
recommended starting
phases.
so with the motion, and to approve, the motion and second to approve the SunGrow bid for $343,913, and to go with the beginning phases of A and B to begin the project, and then go forward after that with the CD.
Just the B's.
Yes, C and D. Okay. All right. So all those in favor vote
Aye.
by saying yes.
Aye.
Jose.
Yes,
Aye.
for Jose.
Aye, Valerie.
Yes. Valerie, yes. Benny, yes.
I said aye,
Vanessa,
yes.
yes. Okay. All right, Anthony. Yes.
Yep.
All right. So we have a unanimous vote to approve the Greenwald project. Thank you all so much.
So with that out of the way, we have been locked in a battle for this project since the end of December. We've had to get an attorney. We've had to go through multiple contracts. We have forced SunGrow to stop multiple times. This project would have been done over 2.5 weeks ago. We would have had plants in the ground, getting watered, getting established. However, because of the lack of leadership and the sandbagging of this current president, we got stuck with the madness that you are seeing out there right now. And I understand completely that it is not where it's supposed to be. Remember, it's not finished. The problem is we haven't been able to give them a green light. Things such as calling the city and calling 311, claiming we needed permits. No, we didn't need permits. Claiming that we didn't vote on this and there's no contract and I didn't know the cost and I didn't know which plants and all this other stuff. Absolute nonsense.
Okay.
Thank you, Anthony.
Is that it, Anthony? Anybody got questions? Any more questions? Because he was answering the questions that Valerie had in an email sent.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Of course.
All right.
Yep.
So there is a motion and a second that has been made on the Greenwald project contract SunGrow vendor, contract vendor, SunGrow. So now I would like to call for the vote. All those in favor to approve the SunGrow bid. Anthony, do you have the exact dollar amount? I have a note 58K, but I'm not sure if I was exact.
No. That's the tree trimming. So basically, this is literally for. It's like
It's a, you know, what is
249.
the amount? So we have it in our thing.
171.
How much, Val?
Was it 171, something like that, Anthony?
No, that
urban.
was
That
urban.
was
This
urban.
is Sungrow for all of them was 343,913.
So tell me again.
343,913.
Okay.
And so that's the other thing too with this. I sent out the pictures with the different phases.
And it's really unfortunate because this is one of the things with this current president that I want to address. From much experience, her and I had built a coalition. Vanessa is a very good person at convincing you that she will do certain things or support you in certain ways. However, as the saying goes, one name, two faces. So this has been a very unfortunate part of our HOA's history now, which, to be honest, we need a reality show. That it's the levels of insanity that has occurred in the last 4 months is worthy of reality TV. So along those lines, with one name, two faces, this person you've heard multiple times voted yes to approve this project.
Vote.
Aye.
By saying yes.
Okay.
Jose?
Yes,
Aye.
for Jose.
Aye, Valerie.
Yes. Valerie, yes. Benny, yes.
I said aye,
Vanessa,
yes.
yes. Okay. All right, Anthony? Yes.
Yep.
All right. So we have a unanimous vote to approve the Greenwald project. Thank you all so much.
Well, it turns out that the president is the only officer on the board who can sign contracts. So I'm sure most of you can guess what this person has done. They decided to not sign the contract, thus kept throwing a wrench in this project. That's why it started so many times where we were in the clear. She said she was going to sign it, didn't happen, turned around. The property manager is begging us, the 3 board members, to do something about it. Unfortunately, we were not able to make a decisive move to have her step down and install a new president who would follow through with the will of the board and sign documents. So this got drug out for months. So much so that the poor individuals that got conned into thinking that she was not aware of this and wasn't the one behind stopping and starting this got on this call to complain about this project. Now, in many of these instances, the concerns were about the rocks flying into the road. This is not something that's happened. There's plenty of xeriscaped areas where there's rocks all around. They are no more different than if there's a rock that falls off of a moving truck and lands in the road. That is something that you would work to avoid. Then, as you can see, even right now, driving the road, not any rocks in the middle of it. So the concerns there were a little inflated. It felt like these were all concerns that were hyped up and repeatedly brought back up by our current president, making this last meeting almost 3.5 hours long. Just could not stay on task and move forward. Luckily, after working with the attorney and finally driving this to a resolution, President gave me the right to sign it. So the president is the only one who can sign contracts for the neighborhood. However, they can delegate that power to another officer. Something that I'm going to be putting forward to the board so that way this never happens again. It's something I didn't even know a president could do. It's one of those things when the decorum is usually no one would ever do this, but then you get someone crazy in there that does do that. And then everyone goes, oh, wait, I didn't even know that was, we need to change this rule. So we're going to put through, or I'm going to put through a motion that we make it so if a project is approved by the majority of the board, any officer on that board may sign for this, so we never have a president do this to us again. So to all of you who think that Vanessa didn't know about this and wasn't aware, or the information wasn't out there, I sincerely apologize because this is untenable. We have so much other stuff in our lives going on that we don't need this person derailing and sandbagging a project that will increase the property values of the neighborhood, will increase the walkability of the neighborhood, which is an investment in a future that many of us, our kids, will be enjoying, but needed to be done because those who came before us hadn't done it. So if you look at the post on Nextdoor, you can see all the information. I even tagged the video where I talk about this. Again, I can't stress this enough. If you really want to know what's going on in the neighborhood, make sure to subscribe. I give you updates on this as best I can. I try and do one once a month. Hopefully this won't be the new norm. We'll have it back on time and back on the regular date. We'll get back to normal. So you can see the video. You can see when I even post the link to the video where it's approved. You can feel free to go check that out. In that, you can see a rendering. Obviously, these aren't the exact plants, right? We picked drought-tolerant plants that are native, that are going to be very hardy against the extreme droughts that we'll be having, and will do much better against disease and stuff like that. One other thing to consider when you're looking at these renderings is these plants are spaced in order for us to eventually add more plants. So don't worry about that. Many of these will grow to very large size in a couple of years, but we have space left to install more, and that will help with ensuring that these fences are screened. You can see here all of the different areas, the sections that SunGrow is going to be working on. Most of them have already been clearscaped. I believe the only one left to be completely finished is the dirt removed here from this section of St. Merryn, and then the rocks need to go be placed all out. They have been sitting there in piles again because the project has been held up by a single person. Now, many of you have been asking why this project was even a project to begin with. So let me go into the conversations that Vanessa, the president, not the president at the time, and I had about the fences along St. Merryn. Many of you who have been watching this channel for a while are aware that there is a certain type of person that hyperfixates on aesthetics, and they want everything to look exactly the same. In some instances, that looks great. My thing on that is every time you make everybody look the same, you remove expression, you remove any sort of value from the neighborhood. And if you look at high-end, and I mean high-end neighborhoods, nobody has the same thing. They are all unique and interesting and expressive. So if you're talking about trying to get property values increased, then nicer looking, expressive communities are what people are looking for. So on that vein, if you go back many years ago when the fence committee got created under Martin and Gary, they wanted to go after these fences all along St. Merryn. Because, of course, they're all different kinds, they're different weathering, they're different sizes. They're all maintained by each individual homeowner. They are not owned by the HOA. So when you look into this as far as what could be done, you had pretty much two options. One, you could take that property back from homeowners. And I listed out a bunch of reasons why we wouldn't want to do that. If you think plants are expensive, wait until you see how much money we have to spend on staining fences, replacing fences, and maintaining them. A very large part of our reserve goes to just fences. Now, that also entails a bunch of liability, because what are we going to do? We're going to replace them all at once? Are we going to be responsible for anything that goes missing in homeowners' backyards? If their pets get out, their kids get out? Is that a smart move in the sense of coming in and taking away things from our homeowners so that way we can spend their money to then maintain it? Some, very select few, of a certain variety of world ethos think that is an intelligent and forethoughtful endeavor. Luckily, that was not the case when Vanessa and I spoke about this, because I also offered the alternative. What if we work within the space that the HOA already owns? These are walking paths. They're not areas where people are playing. These are where people are walking. Additionally, this is a heavy thoroughfare for traffic. So what would be better for the community where the majority of us are walking and driving through this area than shade and aesthetically pleasing plants that change with the seasons and grow older and bloom? Or do we want the same palisade browning fence and just dead inert grass? The win there is when we work within the property that the HOA already owns, There is nothing that needs to be done as far as taking people's property, their back fences. This project worked around all of those fences. Now, were there some issues where they'd actually hit some internet lines? Yeah, there were. But that's because AT&T doesn't bury them worth a damn. I don't know if any of you guys have ever gone out in your front yard, but most of the time they're about that far down. You can hit them with the mower. Now, that major spectrum outage, not from that project, because the person who was no longer on our board and stopped that project made it so that when that outage happened, there was no work being done. So we were able to confirm the outage in that situation was not from the project. So Vanessa and I agreed that the best way to do this would to do a green wall along that way. One, it serves to beautify the neighborhood. Two, it serves to reduce our maintenance costs because we're not running mowers up and down all the time. We're more maintaining trimming, and we are able to just apply more mulch. There will be targeted weed killings to keep stuff from growing up in the rocks once the maintenance team starts to take over this project. Additionally, it will create sound barriers for those homeowners who back up to this noisy street because the wall of plants, it will deaden the sound. That doesn't happen with a wooden fence. So there's a lot of benefits here, and that's why we went with this. And I'm sure that's the main reason why the board agreed to it. It was a unanimous vote. All 5 of us said, this is a good idea, let's do it. 2 people turned around and sunk this project, and we have been fighting for it since December. Now, the important thing that everybody would like to know is when will it start again? This project could have been done 3 weeks ago, and we wouldn't be having this conversation, and we'd be in a much different space. However, our president has ensured that we are here in this space having this conversation. So after I have signed the contract, which I did already, we unfortunately got pushed back because those vendors have other customers and other projects. Why would they spend their time and manpower on getting ours done when we keep telling them, in particular, one person keeps telling them to stop, wait, and then we'll think we've got it covered and she's going to sign it and we're good to go. We'll start and then she'll stop it. That has caused a detriment to the project in the sense of the delay because now SunGrow has already planned out their projects for this month and they won't be back until the 1st of April. But we are so far into this project, there is no turning back in the sense of you will spend an unimaginable amount of money to pick up those rocks and return it to the abysmal state that it was in before this project. So the board's committed, majority of the board has committed to the project. SunGrow has been given the go-ahead. They'll be back out April 1st. We'll get those plants in. The next part of the project when it comes to that is the maintenance, which at this point, Urban Dirt should have been taken care of. But honestly, guys, Urban Dirt, and you should have seen this even in the last video, Urban Dirt was a sweetheart for Vanessa and Valerie. They really wanted this this company to come in and maintain our area. And I think we're spending an extra $60,000 for them instead of Sunscapes, who previously was here. On that initial vote, I said no. I tanked that move. However, they assured me that with an appointment of myself to help make sure that certain areas weren't damaged, and they would work with us with tree folks in the city on carbon sinks on some of the HOA properties, I went ahead and changed that vote when we re-voted, and they were voted in. Needless to say, after hours and hours, and I talked about this in the previous video of going over what needed to be done, they still fucked it up, destroyed no mow zones, and now at this point, they just haven't been mowing a lot of the areas, which is one of the main reasons why I and the rest of the board, the previous board, didn't want to move to a new vendor, because this area takes a while to understand and learn because it's so massive on where these areas are that they need to mow. One of the problems is Urban Dirt, I haven't seen them out in like 3 weeks. And so it's very concerning that I've sent our rep messages, our community manager has sent messages, included photos of the growth in these areas that it should have been mowed already, and we have yet to see anything. So hopefully they turn that around. But now on the next step, there is the weeds that are growing in the rocks now, because we didn't get to finish that project. One of the concerns a lot of people have is about, and I'll address this too while we're at it, is the weed barrier. Those are effective up to a point. The problem is eventually over time, dirt and debris get in between those rocks and everything grows from the top. You're not really going to get a lot from underneath. That's where the targeted weed killer treatment comes in, which should have been being done because in the contract, Urban Dirt's supposed to be maintaining that. Even if there's a project going on, they're supposed to be taking care of it. That has not happened. One thing that myself and a few other members have been discussing is maybe we need to go back to Sunscape, who already knows the area and knows when and where to mow. And while yes, there's certain things we could complain about, they at least were mowing. And they weren't mowing the areas that we asked them to not mow. So there's 2 wins there. And I believe $60,000 less. I don't know. We'll have to get a rebid from them to see if that's still an option. So hopefully this has addressed 99% of the questions and concerns about what's been going on in St. Merryn. I'm going to get into the gym project here in a little bit once we get through this agenda, but hopefully this took care of any more questions, understanding of what's been going on, why these meetings keep getting canceled and moved and things start and stop. If you have anything that I missed, leave a comment below. Let me know. I'm pretty good about responding to anything that comes up on those. 5, the financial report. This was handled by Ian with Goodwin. Vinny has been working with him in regards to funding these projects. I think at this point we've spent over $180,000 on the gym remodel with the $343 for the complete xeriscaping of St. Merryn. This all came out of our reserve, mind you. The reserve is put away money that we can use to either repair, replace things we already have, or in the event that we don't have an operating budget for it, we can use for one-time expenditures to enhance the community, which was done with both of these projects. We created a new line item in the reserve for the St. Merryn Greenbelt project. One of the things that became very apparent is that the old board didn't really understand assets. One of our most expensive assets is our trees. When you think about the time it takes for our trees to grow to the size they are and how easily they can be killed or damaged, those are very expensive and take a long time to get repaired. We've ran into that realization during the ice storm and also into that realization when the arborist was shared with us. Our trees are heavily overgrown and needed to be pruned to help reduce diseases growing on them, as well as ensure that they have a long-lasting life. We did the tree trimming a while ago. I'm sure most of you can already tell how much better our trees look, but that was also done by SunGrow, and that was something that we had to pull out of the reserve, where we then created that line item for these type of projects. We went through the December, January, and February financials. That all got approved. Budgets and such are all posted on Town Square. We went over some of the street service costs. Ian explained the reserve versus the operating. So reserve, again, is money we've put away that we've had extra, and it's savings that when we look at all of the assets, we say, okay, if this all failed, how much would it cost to replace all that? And so a good board keeps that reserve at a threshold where if that were to happen, we can address it. Your operating is what you get yearly. And so that's where you're seeing most of our budget goes to landscaping. I think still $15,000 a month. That is where the costs of the month-to-month stuff comes from. Electric and the pool costs and our community rep salary, that kind of stuff. One of the big things where we're under budget big time is obviously the gym. The gym, we are $40,000 under just because of all the lack of use, water, electricity, stuff like that. That has been a nightmare project. I'm not going to go too much into details with it, but the person who was running that is gone. Juan, the property manager, has taken over that one in the green wall a while ago, and they are working through that diligently to get that thing opened. It is an experience I don't wish to revisit. But on that front, per the survey that I helped put out for the neighborhood, where we ask homeowners what it is that y'all wanted, out of the top 3 things that were requested, and I'll put that survey up here, I think we're 3 for 3. The gym is done, the pool should be done, and Jose's been blasting it out of the park when it comes to community events. One of the things I'm sure many of you will be asking is, will this impact our dues? This project was approved in December before the new budget, so it will not impact any dues. One of the commitments that I have had and continue to have kept every time you reelect me is I refuse to raise any dues. We will cut costs other places before we incur any more cost to homeowners. 6, the president's report. We went over the previous board member quitting. the new board member was selected. This was done sort of out of pocket. One of the big things that I pushed for when this happened was that we offer this position to somebody who's run a campaign, who's put themselves in front of the community and has actually received votes from y'all. The way this works is the board can either by majority vote select someone, and it can be anybody, or they can let the community know that there's an opening and take applications, interview, and then select from that pool. The tradition has always been that we select the person who had the last amount of votes behind the person who got a position. So in that situation, Katie is the person who would have been selected had we stuck with the tradition of going with what our community has voted on and not picking someone that has not put themselves forward in front of y'all. So fortunately for Vanessa and Jose, the treasurer, and myself, the vice president, made a concession because it was a 2-2 vote that we would follow through with their desire to open it up to members of the community to reapply and not go with somebody who already had, I think, 124 votes in the last election. Now, this person is going to be on the board until the term is up. They fill out that term, and then we'll have another election. I'll be up for election coming this new one, and Katie is going to be running again. I have high hopes we can get a strong coalition in here and get some stuff done without the madness that has been occurring. I know the new member, Anthony Cangelo, is Jose's friend, I believe. They were selected by 3 members. Of course, I abstained. But so far in the last meeting, high hopes. Very pleased that they didn't immediately disconnect and run off saying, I don't need this in my life. So we'll see how things go. One of the things that happened, and I got to tell you again, you guys kind of missed out on a juicy experience. The president kind of had a little breakdown, tried to end the meeting, called for a vote to have me removed from the meeting. Sadly, over and over again when that happened, no one else on the board supported her, and we got to continue on just slowly. To that effect, I do need to bring up something in regards to a new thing that the president, Vanessa, has asked the board to sign, and that is a code of ethics. Now, the claims were this was generated because of myself and Valerie. Unfortunately, when you read through the contract, if you will, that only Vanessa and the attorney worked on, there's about 7 passages or things that would remove a member if they did something like I'm doing right now. So one of the big things that I think is important for our community is transparency. That has been always the thing. You can see my voting record anytime it's about consolidation or making decisions and stuff like that. We need a majority of either the board involved or the community involved. So along that vein, that's one of the main reasons I started this channel, so folks would know what's going on in a way that isn't foreign to them. I know when I first got on the board, it moved so quick. I didn't understand what was going on. And it took about 3.5 years before I started to understand the processes that we were working under and how things were done. Now, of course, this year has shown me a whole lot more, but in that effect, I had my attorney, always have, if you have an attorney, always have them look over anything before you sign it, especially if it has never been done before, because honestly, it's a rider, because the board has the right to remove any member on the board via a vote. Now, this would be, we would come to y'all, we'd have to, it's a big, long process, it kind of sucks. The board can always revamp itself when it comes to officers. That can be done because officers are elected by board members. The thing that this contract does is, a lot of it was reasonable, right? Don't show up drunk, don't take bribes from vendors. You will always go through the community manager for vetting of vendors, things of that nature. Very simple, very straightforward stuff. However, like I said, there was about 5, I think I said 7, but maybe 5 passages in there. Very nebulous. And if anyone was on the call the other day, they could have seen the interpretation of some people is a little bit out of tune with the verbiage that they like to use. Now, most of those went on the effect of, we're not allowed to tell you guys what we understand that's going on the board unless it's written in the minutes. I'm not allowed to do this unless I get board approval. I'm not allowed to go on social media and talk about my experiences with other members. None of that, as well as the other members too. Essentially, sitting down with my attorney, we've learned pretty quickly that this was just a gag order. Vanessa didn't want this channel up to be informing you with what's going on. While we don't have a lot of subscribers, there's a lot of information in a format that is very easy for y'all to understand and hopefully enjoyable. That's why you come back. And I enjoy doing this so that way you guys are aware of what's going on the board. Of course, we redlined most of those out of that code of ethics, and I was able to sign it and send it in. Just keep that in mind as the type of person our current president is when it comes to transparency with the neighborhood. Hopefully, the mountain of evidence that I just shared in regards to the Green Wall project is more than enough for y'all to make some pretty easy conclusions. There was a bunch of ratifications that we had to do because we hadn't had a real meeting in quite a few months. We ran through those. Those should be in the meeting minutes. I believe Juan is going to be doing those meeting minutes. I advocated that he would get paid for it since usually a homeowner, a board member, should be doing them. I feel like anybody who's asked to do extra work should be paid and compensated for it. So that'll be something I'll be tying off with on the rest of the board. They are working on the December meeting minutes, and then hopefully we'll have the March meeting minutes up and you can see the ratifications there. 7, the Harris Branch Community Managers Report. Juan brought forth quite a few things. One of the issues that he brought up was we have had a gator that has been sitting in storage for a long time. Originally, we had purchased it at a great price and wanted it to be used for a community porter. So someone who was on site 7 days a week or whatever we could afford, that would pick up the trash, because that's one of the biggest things is, again, y'all know, it just takes one truck or one person and it will look like there's been no pickup. Additionally, those dog park trash bins and the trash bins at the community center and amenity center, that kind of stuff, those are all would have been changed out by the porter. We built the community center, which I believe is still pending occupancy. I'm not entirely up to date on that. It wasn't talked about in this meeting. That amenity center only has a 20-person occupancy, and there was a garage included on it, so that way we could have on-site storage of that gator. Well, since we haven't had a porter, Juan has kind of been trying his best to do this on top of being the community manager. So when he went to go get the gator, all of the rings and the gaskets and stuff had all rotted out. And at the cost it was going to be to repair it, it was much better to purchase a new one. So Goodwin went out, found a replacement EV golf cart, which of course will be much cheaper, much quieter, and much easier to maintain for us. And the board, except I think for Jose, voted yes to approve the electric golf cart. The next step will be the conversation on where it gets parked. I think we should park it in the garage that was made for it. However, there is one person on the board who does not want us to do that and would rather us look into getting a pod or some other storage bin for this equipment. We'll get to that once the cart's in. Community manager went over the plumbers upgrading the amenity center and gym. The valve on the city side turns off the water to both of those buildings. So the plumber offered to upgrade that on the city side, obviously with permitted approval, to make a bypass. So that way in the future, if we have issues in the bathroom, we can simply turn off the water to the bathroom as opposed to turning off water to everything. The board voted to approve that, so that'll be good for future repairs or in upgrades. There are railroad ties that have been sitting behind a property for a very long time. The current landscaping company, Urban Dirt, has offered to pick those up and use those as barriers in our no-mow zones. These last sections will be around the St. Merryn Greenbelt. You can see the video there where I talk about the call to canopy. These will be a wonderful deterrent for future mess ups by mowers. There is an area in St. Merryn Greenbelt which is now been fully planted. So we got 2,300. I thought they were just going to do 1,000. They did 2,300 saplings. Of course, not all of them are going to survive, but the whole point of this to hit it with a high amount is that you'll have a small percentage that will survive. So you're not going to have 2,300 trees there. There is quite a plethora of species that were planted. I will share that with everybody probably in the next meeting once I get the update from tree folks on all the species that they planted. But that went off swimmingly. These guys were real fast. I think they had it belted out within an hour and a half. So please, if you're in that area, be kind of cognizant of the saplings. There is a wall now on one side with a no-mow sign. The other side, we're still hoping to get these rail ties installed, so that way it's very obvious where you can easily walk through without having to pay attention. Now, that area won't be mowed for a commitment of 23 years. If that area gets destroyed or a homeowner goes out there and rips those things out or mows it, we will have to go after them because that is part of the deed that we signed with the city, because they will be using that as a carbon sink when it comes to offsetting their carbon emissions. So it is protected area financially. So if you see anyone out there, keep that in mind. It'd be better if we just had trees and not litigation. That, of course, was voted for and approved. The only person who was in dissent was Jose again. The other item Juan brought up was the pool pump room. There's a giant chlorine tank in there. The new pool company came out and offered a new system with chlorine dedicated as a necessary. It should save us from a repeat of what we had, I believe it was last summer or summer before, where we were having issues with the chlorine or the chemical levels in the pool, where inspectors from the city were coming out and saying, nope, too high, close it down, not safe for people to be in. That was being managed by the lifeguards, and then we had a pool maintenance company, so there's 3 parties involved there. Back and forth going on with it, so of course, now we don't have lifeguards there anymore, so it's a swim at your own risk. This is in line with how it was coded to begin with. That'll save us a lot of money, I think almost $80,000 a year. Pool hours are going to be year-round, but the board went ahead and approved the new system where it auto-handles the disbursement of chemicals into the pool and monitors them in a real time that is automated. The community manager's report, we still had the Spectrum internet account. This is something that we voted to improve with the new gym and a lot of the equipment, I think, using Wi-Fi, as well as the expected increase in use in that area. We went ahead and upgraded the bandwidth on that account, so that way it'll be better for streaming music or videos while you're out there. And then in regards to some of the money that has been sitting in our reserve or money market funds, the board asked Goodwin to look into other investment vehicles that could possibly, or outpace at least, inflation. One of the other things to really consider, and I meant to mention this about the Green Wall project, is, well, yes, this money is sitting there in reserve, is saved for certain things. It is also losing value at a rapid pace due to inflation. If we're able to use it on enhancements, one-time enhancements, things like the Green Wall, that makes sense because that's a return on investment that is outside of being tied to the markets or whichever administration is running the country. 8 committee reports, the ACC, no updates there. Metal roofs have been approved. The board approved the 4 different types of metals. So if you were listening to me when I was telling you it had been approved, that was done in December. Teams like we dropped the ball and didn't update the ACC, so they had been declining folks submitting with metal roofs. After a long drawn out process with the attorney, actually turned out that we didn't have any bylaws preventing metal roofs to begin with, so they could have been approved before I even lived in the neighborhood. But we went ahead and gave some direction to the ACC. If you got declined, please resubmit. If you submitted and got declined and they still decline, please leave a comment below so that way I can find out what's going on with that. But hopefully we'll start to see much more sturdy, fire-resistant roofs in our neighborhood so we don't have any more repeats of lightning fires or roof fires. And we can also ensure that we aren't having to replace our roofs every 4 years with the hail damage that comes through. B, community enhancement and enrichment. C, lifestyles and communications committee. D, emergency planning and safety committee. This meeting kind of went off the rails after about the homeowner forum, and so a lot of these things didn't get talked about. Some of these are by members who are no longer with us. Not many updates on any of those 4 items. Old business A, the tennis pickleball courts reopening. That should be done. Those courts are ready and good to go, last I've heard, unless the locks have broken again. Get out there and enjoy that. I know there's a lot of people who were excited for that. 10, new business A, the director appointment. That's Anthony Congello. Congratulations. Looking forward to running out these last few months until the election. B, the Sungrow Greenwall project contract. Covered that extensively. C, pool season. The idea is we're going to open as soon as possible. 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have the gym back up and running. We are waiting on a fire inspection as well as a 311 city inspection. Seems as if the vendors that were picked by the person who ran that project didn't pull permits, which caused a huge delay in that. The grand opening is pending. I know Jose wants to wait until everything's actually ready to go so we don't tease y'all with another, oh, it'll be open in a month, into this month, blah, blah, blah. So look for that update. D, Austin Pool Pro service agreement pump. We already addressed that. E, the Vortex Pool Gate lock replacement proposal. That's been done. F, the water main valve installation proposal. That was approved. G, the maintenance vehicle proposal, that was approved. H, the Bellhaven Monument Sterling Bridge fence proposal, that was approved. All right, 11, executive session, and 12, adjournment. I know this video has been a long time coming. I certainly appreciate everyone who has been supporting this channel. And with that all being said, I'll hopefully see y'all at some of the happy hours or the upcoming community events. Y'all stay safe out there. Take care. Bye.